The following segment is presented in partnership with Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org. It is a critical week in the state legislature in Washington, and that is because some of these bills we've been talking about for months now, it is do or die. They need to either progress before Friday or they're going to be dead. There are ways that lawmakers can try to revive certain things, but it's really not something that we can count on or trust that it's going to happen. And so if there is a bill that we've discussed that you're really passionate about, this is the week to continue to email elected leaders in your district and frankly, any elected leaders who are responsible for the bill or holding the bill up to really let them know your opinion on this issue. And I just want to take today to go through a couple of these things that are still pending and really stress the importance of getting this work done. And for the bills that I'm going to discuss right now, I think the really frustrating part for me is that they're bipartisan. All of the bills I'm about to discuss are bipartisan. And so I just don't, there is no common sense reason for them not to continue forth to a vote. And it's frustrating in some situations in particular to see just this small faction, a progressive faction of the Democratic Party in Olympia exert so much power over the rest of their caucus. The pursuit bill is a perfect example of this. I was so excited at the beginning of the session to see this bipartisan effort from Democrats and Republicans to fix the state's broken police pursuit policy, to see what's happening on our streets and on our highways and realize, hey, this isn't normal. Thousands of people are fleeing from law enforcement and going on to do who knows what. And we need to do something to address this issue. And so I was so optimistic when Senate Bill 5352 and House Bill 1363 were put forth. And I thought, great, bipartisan bills, there's no way these aren't going to advance. And then you had, again, just a handful of Democrats in the Washington State Senate, namely State Senator Manka Dhingra, who chairs Law and Justice, who I don't know if it's pride, I don't know if it's stubbornness, I don't know if it's just a lack of, they're not in touch with reality, have just ground these efforts to a halt. And the really frustrating thing is this: there are enough votes to pass the fix. There are enough votes today amongst Republicans and Democrats to pass this fix, which would put power back in the hands of law enforcement to be able to use their judgment and their training in deciding, is this pursuit in the best interest of public safety? There's enough support for it. There's apparently, though, not enough political will for it. And it's deeply disappointing, I think, and kind of shameful, frankly. I don't want to be mean, but it's kind of shameful for these progressives who are holding this thing up, and then for the other Democrats who support the policy but aren't willing to work with Republicans to bring it to the floor. And again, it's just an example of politics at its worst. They're beholden so much to their political party that they're not willing to push what they know is good policy, what they know will help public safety for the benefit of the people they serve. It's really, really disappointing. So again, I would just encourage you, I don't know if State Senator Manka Dhingra is a lost cause at this point, but if you in particular are represented by a Democrat in the state Senate in Washington, and you can find that out at future42.org. They have a really handy district finder. If you could just look that up and send some additional emails this week, just urging them to go with their conscience and common sense and push their own party to pass these bills. Senate Bill 5352, House Bill 1363. And look, I'm open to I'd support a compromise on this. There are some of these progressive Democrats who want to study the issue. They want to put together a 19-person panel. They want to study it till their heart's content. Fine. But put the fix in place to just give a pause to this disorder on our streets and then study it. Because you know that if it needed to be studied, it should have been studied before you passed the woefully misguided change to the law in 2021. You know that. You should have studied it beforehand. So fine, study it now. But I think we should put the law back closer to how it was while you take whatever time you need to study the issue. Another bill I want to talk about that I'm a little more hopeful for, it is the effort going on, again, bipartisan basis, to fix the Blake decision, which, as you know, I know you're very well versed in this issue already, given how much we've talked about it. The Blake decision was a decision from the Washington State Supreme Court that found that our felony drug possession statute, as it was written, was unconstitutional. And so it nullified it. And if lawmakers don't do something to fix this issue, then come this summer, drug possession will just be legal in Washington state. So they need to do something. And again, there are bipartisan bills out there to fix it. The best bill, in my opinion, the most common sense bill, is Senate Bill 5467. Again, it has bipartisan support, and it achieves what we all want, which is for people to get better. No one wants, Democrats, Republicans, no one wants someone who's dealing with substance abuse disorder, and that's what it is, to just go to prison and lock them up and throw away the key. Nobody wants that. Nobody's asking for that. But there does have to be some teeth on the law so that law enforcement has the ability to see someone who's in the throes of addiction, one hot shot from killing themselves, and they can say either you get treatment or you're going to jail. And that's what Senate Bill 5467 accomplishes in a very reasonable, thoughtful, caring, compassionate way. It gives this individual multiple opportunities. It steers them toward treatment at every step in the process. But if they continuously fail to get treatment, then yeah, they do have to spend some time in jail. And to me, that is the best solution for all sides. It's common sense. Again, it has bipartisan support. So there are multiple bills out there to fix the Blake decision, but some of them are way too weak. This bipartisan bill is the best one, and it is the one that lawmakers should be prioritizing if we have any hope of getting this drug crisis under control. One more public safety bill that I want to touch on here, and I'll also get into it a little more in depth in a coming segment. There has been this issue that arose a little late this legislative session, but it's very important. There are fights going on in two communities in Washington state, one in Tenino and one in Enumclaw, where these sexually violent predators are being taken off McNeil Island, where they're currently being housed, and they're being placed in less secure facilities in communities across the state. And this is happening elsewhere as well, but Tenino and Enumclaw are the communities that have really started to advocate on behalf of themselves, on behalf of their families, and saying, hey, we want more of a say in this, or this is not the kind of person who we want in our communities, a few yards from a school bus stop. And so some lawmakers, and again, bipartisan, we're not talking about hyper-partisan public safety bills. We're talking about bipartisan public safety bills that are just lacking a little support from the progressive wing of the Democratic Party that is holding up these common sense steps. So lawmakers have taken note of the fight in Tenino to keep these sexually violent predators from moving into their community, the fight in Enumclaw to keep these sexually violent predators from continuing to move into their community. There's already one there. And so there are these two bipartisan proposals, House Bill 1813, House Bill 1813, and House Bill 1734. House Bill 1734. These bills would do two things. They would put an immediate halt on moving these convicted sex offenders out of McNeil Island into these facilities in our communities. And that halt would give the government time to reassess this issue. And I think that's important in this instance because I think this was done without a lot of thought. And then the second thing these bills would do is it would give communities more of a notice before one of these facilities starts accepting sex offenders into these neighborhoods. And that's important. We need to make sure that parents, families, businesses, schools, all the stakeholders know what's going on. There's an opportunity for them to have input in this situation and to prepare themselves for the possibility that they might have violent predators living in their communities. Again, very common sense stuff. Bipartisan bills. And so I'll again just urge you, if you haven't emailed your elected leaders or even called, sometimes phone calls, just be kind, but sometimes phone calls get more of a response than emails. I think emails can be a little easy to ignore. But yeah, I'd keep this in mind for any of you. It doesn't matter what your politics are. Democrat, Republican, Independent. these are bills that have the support, I think, to pass. But there is apparently a shortage of political will from the majority party to prioritize them. And I'll let you be the judge of why that is. Is it they're stubborn? Is it in the case of pursuits that you have lawmakers who don't want to admit that they were wrong, who are worried about what the far left fringe of the party, the police abolitionist types might say? I don't know what it is, but in truth, the majority of people want these bills passed. The majority of lawmakers in Olympia want these bills passed. They're bipartisan in nature for a reason. I've always said I think bipartisan bills tend to be the best policy because you have people who have starkly different views on issues who are able to come together and agree on something. So on these points, again, the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking for Democratic lawmakers who have so far not prioritized these issues to say, look, we have to move these bills forward before Friday. Because I really don't want to see what's going to happen in our communities if they don't take action to recriminalize drug possession, if they don't take action to allow police to engage in at least some vehicular pursuits in severe cases, if they don't take action to keep these violent, in some cases, repeat sex offenders out of our neighborhoods. I don't want to see what the next year is going to be like in Washington State. So I really, really hope that it doesn't come to that. The previous segment was brought to you in partnership with Future 42. Turn your frustration into action at future42.org.